What are some problems with Yandere Simulator's gameplay? Considering Yandere Simulator is known for being very flawed, it's no wonder that the gameplay is not that good. We'll be reviewing complaints fans of Yandere Simulator have about its gameplay. So, let's get into it. One criticism that fans of Yandere Simulator have about its gameplay is that there are unrealistic elimination methods. Essentially, this argument states that some of the elimination methods in Yandere Simulator are not realistic. If one takes some time to think about it, some of the elimination methods do not fit in the environment in which Yandere Simulator takes place. Reddit user Doggos Are Babies wrote about this, stating, quote, "Several ways to kill or dispose of evidence are way too unrealistic for a school setting. What kind of school has a functional Iron Maiden without any kind of case or something, and has a giant cryogenic chamber without any sort of locks or passwords?" It makes sense that people would criticize certain elimination methods that don't make sense. Let's take the Iron Maiden for example. Essentially, the Iron Maiden is a, quote, "human-shaped iron cabinet with interior spikes supposedly used for torture by being closed on a victim for slow, painful death." They're basically spiked iron cabinets used to torture people. Anyway, the Iron Maiden is a weapon that can be found in Yandere Simulator. The player can use it to eliminate other students. If one thinks about it and does a bit of research, they'll realize the number of problems with this. For one, the Iron Maiden likely didn't even exist. Despite being associated with the medieval period, there's no evidence that the Iron Maiden actually existed during that time. If anything, the earliest mentions of the Iron Maiden were in the 19th century. How does this connect back to Yandere Simulator? Yandere Simulator is a game that mostly uses weapons that can be found in real life. That is, almost every weapon or a variant of them can be found in the real world. However, as we mentioned earlier, the Iron Maiden never actually existed. It doesn't make sense for it to be in the game, especially if it's meant to be seen as a realistic weapon. There's one other issue I can think of regarding an Iron Maiden being in Yandere Simulator. As you all know, Yandere Simulator takes place in a school setting. It specifically takes place in a school named Academy, which is a, quote, post-high school academy. All of the students at Academy are either minors or between 18 and 19 years old. Knowing all of this, it raises one simple question. Why is there an Iron Maiden at a high school? It's one thing for an Iron Maiden to be in Yandere Simulator, especially since it never existed, but to see it in a high school environment is really weird. It's not the type of place one would expect to see an Iron Maiden. There's a lot more I can talk about, but essentially, there are elimination methods in Yandere Simulator that do not make sense. To probably no one's surprise, a criticism that fans of Yandere Simulator have regarding its gameplay is that the mechanics are unbalanced. Essentially, some parts of Yandere Simulator's gameplay are fair and balanced, while other parts are very complex and require the player to understand certain parts of the game. Reddit user FlakyBullfrog8507 made a comment talking about this, writing, quote, "It just doesn't feel well balanced. Some parts are really easy and straightforward, and then if you try to do certain essential stealth things for certain methods, it's borderline impossible without a serious understanding of the game." I've definitely experienced this back when I played Yandere Simulator. There are parts of the game that are really easy, such as opening a door or leveling up your stats. Mechanics like those are very easy to understand. However, other mechanics are really hard to understand. Let's take the genocide ending for example. It's essentially a challenge where a student has to kill every person at Academy. Even though the challenge alone sounds very hard, it's a lot harder than you might think. There are stories of people who fulfilled every requirement needed to get the genocide ending, yet they never got it. For example, Reddit user Safe Neighborhood 584 made a post asking why they had not gotten the genocide ending despite meeting all of the requirements. People eventually told them that it was due to the OP saving their progress, which the OP did not know was a feature. It's especially noteworthy that one of the requirements for the genocide ending is not explicitly stated anywhere. Essentially, Yandere Simulator's mechanics are not balanced. Some of them are very easy to do, while others require the player to be an expert in Yandere Simulator. Most, if not all, well-developed games take measures to ensure this is not the case. However, this is Yandere Simulator we're talking about. It's not surprising that the game's mechanics are not balanced. One very well-known criticism of Yandere Simulator's gameplay is that the game doesn't run very well. This is something that Yandere Simulator is notorious for. If one were to ask a random person who has never played the game to give some criticism of it, they'll likely bring up that the game is not optimized. This criticism is especially prevalent among fans of Yandere Simulator who consistently bring it up in discussions. Reddit user UnusualFish8039 is no different. They wrote, "My only complaint is how the performance has declined over the years. The build starting in 2024 at least ran at a stable 30 FPS, but not anymore. It's not like I have the best PC, but even a year ago, the game was stable." I can definitely relate to this. Back when I first started making videos about Yandere Simulator, the laptop I used at the time would start heating up whenever it ran the game. Additionally, Yandere Simulator would have a somewhat unstable frame rate. It was to the point that I had to disable quite a lot of settings just so the game would run properly. Anyway, Yandere Simulator is notorious for not running well on most devices. This is primarily due to the game's messy code. If one looks at Yandere Simulator's code, then it becomes really obvious why the game doesn't run well. It's coded in a way that makes it use a lot of resources. Speaking of which, the game's code is really ugly. Just look at it. Literally everyone who's seen this has stated that they can write better code than this. All in all, one aspect of Yandere Simulator's gameplay that people don't like is how poorly it runs. This has been a criticism of the game people have had for years. It's not surprising considering how poorly coded Yandere Simulator is, which fans also have problems with. Regardless, Yandere Simulator is not a game that people with weaker devices should play. Hell, even high-end devices can't run it well. Another criticism that fans of Yandere Simulator have about its gameplay has to do with InfoChan. Yes, it seems that many fans don't like InfoChan in general. Anyway, fans have stated that InfoChan's role in the game does not make that much sense. They've also stated that she doesn't function correctly a significant portion of the time. Reddit user WorkingHandle6527 talked about this in a comment they made. They wrote, "InfoChan, the whole concept is so stupid. Why would Ayano so easily trust InfoChan? Oh yeah, I want to help you murder people. Sure. Not a single person with murderous intentions would trust anyone. Aside from that, her instructions to kill Asana don't work half the time. I usually just watch a tutorial." They are far from the only people who have criticized InfoChan as a character. Over a year ago, Reddit user MoreFig5840 wrote the following regarding their criticisms of InfoChan. InfoChan has a room just for her, gets information about everybody, and decides to help Ayano makes no sense. Not to mention her being allowed in school when they don't even know the basics like her real name. The latter part has somewhat been explained, as InfoChan supposedly blackmailed the headmaster of Academy to allow her to be there. Whether or not this is a good explanation is up for debate. We did make an entire video dedicated to criticisms regarding InfoChan, so make sure to go watch that if you're interested. Anyway, if InfoChan had a bit more of a backstory and had her mechanics changed, I could see her becoming much more popular within the Yandere Simulator community. One more criticism we'll be discussing regarding Yandere Simulator's gameplay has to do with the map layout. In case you're not aware, Yandere Simulator takes place in a school named Academy. Here are some photos of how it looks. Anyway, fans of Yandere Simulator have criticized the layout of Academy, saying that it doesn't look good or make sense. Reddit user StarCollie talked about their criticisms of Academy back in 2022, writing, quote, "I feel like this gets overlooked, but the school layout is absolutely terrible and doesn't look like or is built like an actual school, but a bunch of rooms slapped together. It looks like you're not going to school, but a literal sandbox." Now, I don't go to school in Japan, but would it have killed Alex to do a little research as to how Japanese schools were built in the 1980s? Imagine in 1980s mode, there was an old school building that was knocked down, but you could find stuff in there that you couldn't in 2020X and vice versa. Or a modern extension was added in 2020X mode. Something like that would add depth without explicitly stating that the school is rich or prestigious. This does not surprise me that much. Yandere Simulator is notorious for using textures that are not the highest quality. It makes sense that, from an aesthetic view, Academy does not look that great. Yandere Simulator is also notorious for depicting an idealized version of Japanese culture. That is, the game is based on a fake version of Japan. It's not surprising considering Yandere Simulator's developer is not Japanese in any way whatsoever. He literally has no frame of reference for making Academy look realistic. Of course, he could have taken time to do research, but would we expect someone like Yandere Dev to actually do that? Essentially, the environment in which Yandere Simulator takes place in doesn't look good or make sense. Fans have pointed to Academy as a prime example of this. It's been described as looking like, quote, a bunch of rooms slapped together. Considering the kind of development Yandere Simulator has gone through, it's not surprising that the game's environment looks bad. If there's anything to take away from this video, it's that Yandere Simulator's gameplay is very flawed. From its unbalanced mechanics and unrealistic elimination methods, to the game's poor performance and awful looking environment, there's so much about Yandere Simulator's gameplay that needs to be fixed. Will it happen? Probably not. One can dream though. What are some other problems that you have with Yandere Simulator's gameplay? Let us know in the comments below. On that note, feel free to watch this video next.